Good evening, everyone. It's Professor Ginobili. This is the first of two lectures for week 3. It's about 8:45 Eastern Time, 6:45 Wyoming time, Friday night. I'm going to do the first lecture tonight, and then I'm going to post the second lecture tomorrow morning. There's just some final things that I'm putting together for that one. Tonight, I want to touch upon APA and writing and do the birth order activity. And then tomorrow morning, I'm going to post the ethology chapter 3 lecture. So here we go. Let's share the screen. So these were some things that I noticed when I was looking at your homework 1. So this is like a mini crash course in APA 7. And then the English teacher and me, I want to do a little mini thing on writing, especially academic writing. So here we go. So I'm going to do a quick run through of the OWL Purdue website. As I said before, if you haven't done so already, it's not a required text, but I highly recommend getting that publication manual of the American Psychological Association, 7th edition. They just updated it 2-3 years ago, so it's not going anywhere anytime soon. They usually update every 7 or so years. Sometimes it's longer, but if you're going to be staying within the educational field, you really need to be on top of APA. You're always going to use that book until they do the 8th update. Let us go to the OWL Purdue website. So a quick run through of the OWL Purdue website. It's actually really easy when you look at this left side column over here. Just to let you know, if you're writing a paper in the humanities, they're going to use MLA style. And these styles down here are very like what we would call niche or niche style. Chicago style, sometimes history. I don't even know what some of these. This medical. This may be a medical style, but all you really need to stick with, especially in college, is APA and MLA. APA is going to be all of your social sciences, education, um, traditional science like biology and chemistry, psychology. That's all going to be APA. And then MLA is going to be your humanities, English, foreign language, philosophy. They'll be MLA style. So we're going to come up here. And you want to go to the style guide. The style guide is going to give you everything you need to know APA related. So this first link is going to give you the general format. It's going to give you the guidelines, what your font should be, your how your title page should look like. It'll give you sample pages. This is where I was telling you before about the sample student. They have the professional one down here. Don't worry about the professional one. You're looking at the one up here. We're going to talk about this. Page numbers start with the title page, and title page is always 1. So don't put the second page where your essay begins as page 1. Page 1 is always the title page. So if you have any wonderings of how to format your paper, you go to general format. In-text citations. Your in-text citations are also called parenthetical citations because you find them in parentheses. That's why they're called parenthetical citations. So all of the basics are here. I'm not really going to go through specifics here because I touched upon specifics in my little PowerPoint. But everything you need to know about short quotations, long quotations, I touch upon that in my my slides as well. How do you format them? How do they look? Um, if your sources don't have pages, um, if you're paraphrasing, how do you do the citation? So all of your basics for in-text citations are here. And then how do you work with in-text citations based off of if there's one author, if there's two authors, three or more authors, and so on. If you don't know who the author is, if an organization like the American Psychological Association is the author, this comes up sometimes too. I've done this a lot. If you have two or more works in the same parentheses because you found the same idea in two different places, it's like getting a 2-for-1. That's okay. This is how you format the parenthetical citation. If they have the same last name, so what's great about OWL Purdue is every exception that you can think of, they cover it. If two or more works are by the same author in the same year, how does that look in the parenthetical citation? How do you cite introductions, prefaces, forewords, afterwards, etc., etc.? Everything you could think of is right here. What I love about OWL Purdue is that you don't. I'm gonna X out that video because it's throwing me off too. You don't have to think. That's what I love about OWL Purdue. Don't think. You don't have to memorize it. And then this part will bring you to every single type of source that you will cite. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to explain to you what is on each of these links. So the basic rules of the APA reference list, that's going to be on this link. Just like we do with the in-text citations, how do you deal with authors? How do you do a citation with multiple authors? If you don't know who the author is, how do those reference entries look like? References in periodicals. What is a periodical? For those of you who don't know, a periodical are works of literature that are published periodically. That would be newspapers, magazines, non-academic journals. Those would be periodicals. They are published on a periodic basis. That's why they're called periodicals. Printed books. If you're referencing something from the textbook, because it's a printed book. However, ours is a little different because it is a PDF. Now, for the sake of simplicity, if it's an ebook that has pages like our textbook is scanned with it has the page numbers within the PDF. For the sake of simplicity, I don't go into the fact that it's a PDF since it's pretty much a scanned book. But PDFs are under non-print sources, I believe. I believe they're down there. So other print sources, these come under dictionaries, thesauruses, encyclopedias, citing a secondary source, a dissertation abstract, a dissertation or master's thesis, a federal or state statute, a report from a government agency. So like if you wanted to cite the 9/11 Commission or the January 6th Commission, like you could cite that as well. This is how you would cite it. Conference proceedings. So all of that would come under other print sources. Electronic sources is another place that you're going to live in. So I'm just going to go through here. Web pages. What else? Okay. Wikipedia is I'm gonna I'm gonna say avoid Wikipedia, even though it's on the Owl Purdue website. Um, so I'm just gonna say avoid Wikipedia articles, and the reason why I'm gonna say avoid Wikipedia articles, as far as citing them, is because anyone can edit them, so I would avoid them. So I'm just gonna skip over this one for now. Online scholarly journals and how to cite their DOIs. Online news articles. What else do we have in here? Online dictionaries, graphic data, all different types of data, emails. Emails are actually pretty cool if you're gonna if you did like an email interview. Social media is considered a valid source, but always remember it depends on who said it. So, for example, this is usually the example I give my students in high school. If you have to do a little bit digging, so if you want to quote a tweet from Twitter, check to see who's following the person. I'll give you an example. If you're writing a paper for poli-sci, political science, Twitter would be legit because you have a lot of politics, political analysts, and politicians who tweet on Twitter. One Twitter account is owned by Joe Friday, who has no experience in politics, and he just has a Twitter account. He's got 20 followers, and it's all about the rage. It's all about he's so angry at the government, and he's just tweeting about that. Would you cite a tweet from him, or would you cite a tweet from somebody, let's say, has a political Twitter account, is followed by local politicians all over the United States, and has 2,000 followers? The second person has what we call clout, CLOUT, clout. They have street cred, if you will. People are listening to that person. It's not simply tweets being angry about the government, and the audience legitimizes that person because that person's being followed by local politicians from all over the nation, and they have 2,000 followers. So you may have to do a little bit of digging. Are blogs okay? Again, it depends. Is it Joe Friday writing angry blogs, or is it the other person who looks like, even if they're not, let's say, in politics or have a political science degree, have they proven themselves in the field based on who their followers are, and who's listening to them? So you may have to do some validity check. Facebook posts. So, like, for example, I have a education blog / teacher fan page on Facebook. I have 65,000 followers on it. Some of the posts are just funny jokes. Hey, this is the school year, ha ha ha. Other times I'll post legitimate like teaching philosophy or theory, or like something to get people thinking. You may have to discern which posts you want to quote from, but the fact that I have 65,000 followers from all over the world, gives me a level of clout and legitimacy than somebody who doesn't. Instagram photos, YouTube videos, TED Talks, you name it. You could quote it, you could cite it. Audiovisual media. These are like films and movies and videos, TV series. And then other non-print sources, interviews, presentations, unpublished works, unpublished manuscripts, personal communications like emails. You would find all that information there. Is there anything else that you need to know down here? The sample paper is here. And that's about it. Changes in the 7th edition. That was the mini quiz for this week, so we don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to go back here to our presentation. Title page. This is what the title page should look like. The title is in bold. Then your name, Department of Education, comma, University of Wyoming, the course name, the professor's name, in this case, Professor Michael DeNobili. Some of you labeled me Dr. Michael DeNobili. I'm flattered. I'm just a doctoral student. One day I'll be a doctor. But you could just put Professor Michael DeNobili. And then the date is month, day, comma, year format. So don't put 9/8/2022. You'd put September 8th, 2022. But I think today is the 9th. That's neither here nor there. It's been a long week. Page numbers and running headers. Just the number, upper right-hand corner in the header. The title page is page 1. No running header for student papers. I think they did that just to keep it simple and clean for student papers, so it's not complicated. In-text parenthetical citations. So the basic format is author, year, and page number, or if there's multiple page numbers, you put PP 4 to 5. So here's another thing to bring up. It's not PG period, it's P period. That's it. So Crane 2014, page 43, or maybe you quoted something that was on the bottom of page 43 and went up to the top of page 44. Crane 2014, PP 43 to 44. Here's other ways that you can do it. Crane 2014, you have a little bit of a sentence here, then you have the actual quote, and then you put page 43 at the end. Or blah, 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 blah. You have a quote, and then you put Crane 2014, page 43. Or blah, blah, blah. You have the quote. You put the citation, Crane 2014, page 43, and you have the rest of your sentence, blah, 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 period. One of the things I want to bring to your attention, the parenthetical citation is anchored to your sentence with the period after it. You don't put the period before it. You put the period after it. The reason for this is this parenthetical citation should not be floating in the middle of your paragraph. It needs to be anchored to that sentence. So we know that this is page 43 to Crane, not that it's page 43 to whatever the next sentence is. So be mindful of that. It's a subtle thing, but it's important. Quotation marks go around what the author said. Punctuation doesn't go inside the quotation. It goes after the citation or at the end of the sentence. Point is this, some of you would put the quote here, and then you would put the quote after page 43. Crane didn't say page 43. He said whatever you're quoting from in the middle. That's why the quotations go there. Few quick things about quotations. Direct quotations, meaning you're citing the exact words of the author. Always have page numbers for direct quotations. Don't put quotations and then don't put the page number. If you don't put the page number, we're not going to know where you got the information from. I may want to go back to the original text and be like, hey, Crane is saying something cool. I want to go back to that page in the book. Don't quote dump. Don't place a random quote within the paragraph without running them into a sentence. So for example, don't do this. Don't put quote, the New York Mets are the best baseball team, end quote. DeNoble, 2022, page 23. Okay, so clearly DeNoble likes the Mets. But what are you trying to say? Do this. According to DeNoble, 2022, quote, the Mets are the best baseball team, page 23. Or DeNoble, 2022, noted that the New York Mets are the best baseball team, page 23. And then you would put a period at the end. Paraphrases, which means putting them in your own words, you don't put page numbers. So anytime you're not directly quoting, don't put the page number. So for example, DeNoble, 2022, expressed his support for the New York Mets, or some might argue that the New York Mets are the best baseball team. DeNoble, 2022. There's no page number. It's just the author and the year. Takeaway: diversify how you share your source information. Oftentimes, what happens is that you may get caught up in always doing everything in the parenthetical, or you may put it like this. We put I'm flying around, I apologize. Where you do I just lost my train of thought. I apologize. Here, you put everything in the parenthetical citation, or you do author, year, and page number. Diversify your language, and the reason for that, it's about style, and it's about logistical buildup and readability. You also don't want to bore your readers having the same structure every single time. So it really switches up how you share your information with your reader. See Owl Purdue on what defines a long quote and how to format them. Some of you had long quotes and you were putting them in your paragraph as if they were short quotes. So that's just a quick thing to look up on Owl Purdue. References, it's only called references. Don't call it anything else. When in doubt, check out Owl Purdue. Every type of source is there, as we went through earlier, excuse me. Remember to put hanging indent. It's not a paragraph indent. So don't indent the first line. It's the second line that gets indented. First line is flush with the left margin, and all the subsequent lines are indented. Titles are in sentence case. Only the first word is capitalized in the main title and the subtitle and italicized. So for example, Darwin's book on the origin of species, subtitle by means of natural selection. That's how you're going to type the title in APA format. List entries alphabetically by author's last name. So always remember it's author, first initial, second initial, if they provide a second initial, and then your entries are going to be listed by author's last name alphabetically. See Owl Purdue for all exceptions to the rules. See Owl Purdue for sample student paper. I've been using Owl Purdue since middle school because that's how awesome Owl Purdue is. Owl Purdue updates whenever there's a new update. It is amazing. It's like I said, if you're in research, that the orange reference book and Owl Purdue, that's your Bible. That's all you need when you're in research, in terms of formatting and doing the citations. It's the easiest thing that has worked with me over the years. So here's what I'm going to do for you, and I do this for all of my students, high school or college. I'll provide an APA formatted work document cheat sheet. The first time I let you struggle with it, you need to get in the habit of doing it. And then what I do is I give you a document you can copy until the end of time. All you need to do is add your specific information and your essay and paper. I do that this way because that's what I've done. I have a blank MLA formatted paper and a blank APA paper on my computer, and I just copy and paste it until the end of time, until I have to update it when there's a new update. And so I have that with me. It's my reference that I have with me, so that whenever I start a new research paper, everything's formatted, everything's there. I don't have to start from scratch. I don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. I just have to add the spokes and make the wheel better. That's all I got to do. Now, writing in a nutshell, your introduction. There are 3 parts to a paper: introduction, body, conclusion. This is not something that should sound new to you. You probably learned this back in middle school. When given a task, answer the question directly. When you answer the question directly in 1 or 2 sentences, that is your thesis statement. And then you're going to build your introduction around that thesis statement. How do you build an introduction? There are 3 main parts to an introduction: a hook, which is an attention grabber. I gave you a link here that gives you 7 different types of hooks that get you into how you can grab the attention of a reader. This is the scientific term filler. The reason for this is this: if you have a hook to grab the attention of the reader and you have your thesis statement, you need to have some sort of bridge between the two. Otherwise, it's going to sound a little stilty. So you have to have a little bit of filter that bridges the gap between the hook and the thesis statement, and then your thesis, which directly answers the question or task, as we said before. And then you provide reasons or supporting details to your thesis. These are what we call subtheses. So oftentimes you'll have a thesis that sounds, you answer the question, and then you say by or because, and then you give 3 reasons. Those 3 reasons become your body paragraphs. Body paragraph 1 is reason A, reason B is body paragraph 2, reason C is body paragraph 3. Short papers or essays, the general rule is 3 subtheses. It's a general rule, which gives you 3 body paragraphs and gives you the infamous 5-paragraph essay. I never liked teaching the 5-paragraph essay because then students think, oh, it's all about numbers. It's not about the numbers. You can have a 6-paragraph essay. You can have a 7-paragraph essay. You can have a 4-paragraph essay. It's not the number of paragraphs. It's answering the question and the task before you to the fullest extent. Term or long papers or research papers, your subtheses are optional in that thesis statement, as they may make the thesis statement long and too complex. But you still have an intro, body, and conclusion, except these are now parts of your paper, not paragraphs. Because if you're writing a 5 to 7 page paper and you think you're going to be writing a 5-paragraph essay, those are going to be some long paragraphs. Paragraphs shouldn't be more than a page. They should be less than a page. Therefore, you're going to be breaking your paper up into parts. You may have 30 to 50 paragraphs in a term paper, but you still may have 5 parts. So, for example, you may have your intro paragraph or section. The reason why I say paragraph or section, I've written papers before where I've had my introduction be 2 to 3 paragraphs, and then I'll have body section 1, 2 to 3 paragraphs, body section 2, 2 to 3 paragraphs, all the way down to the conclusion, which may be 2 or 3 paragraphs as well. So your intro and your conclusion may or may not be multiple paragraphs, but the individual body sections may have multiple paragraphs. But this is, as I said before, the term or research paper, which is going to naturally be longer than a short paper or essay, which may be 2 to 3 pages. Last thing on intros, the introduction introduces the entire essay or paper. By the end of the introduction, the reader should know what you're discussing or analyzing and how you will do it for the entire essay. What you shouldn't do is only, for example, some of you did this. You talked about Gesell in paragraph 1, which looked like your introduction paragraph, and then you talked about Darwin in paragraph 2. Well, in the introduction, if you were going to talk about those 2 theorists, they should have been in your thesis statement, explaining how Gesell and Darwin explain how nature impacts human development. That's how you have to start conceptualizing your short. These are essays, these are short papers, but that's how you should be conceptualizing it. Body paragraphs. Kiss, keep it simple, sweetie. So kiss, keep it simple. I learned this when I was in graduate school for my second master's degree. And I told my professor, I wish I knew you in middle school because this would have helped me so much. So let's go back to elementary school for a second. Parts of a paragraph. You have your main idea, you have your supporting detail or details, you have elaboration, and then you have a transition sentence. Well, your main idea in an academic paragraph is your claim or subthesis. All right. It's your reason that you're giving to support your thesis. Your supporting detail or details is your quote from your source. And then your elaboration is your discussion. So you claim, quote, discuss. Every paragraph. This is why it's important to diversify how you share your information, but every single paragraph is going to be claim, quote, discuss, claim, quote, discuss, claim, quote, discuss. It's the simplicity of academic writing. They say, I say, they say, I say, they say, I say. That's it. That's all you're doing. In your elaboration or your discussion portion, how does the source support the subthesis and therefore the thesis? That's what you're talking about, because quotes don't speak for themselves. I always like when I ask my high school students, do quotes speak for themselves? Yes. No, they don't speak for themselves. They're just words on a page. It is you who needs to explain it. Now, with that said, I also want to bring this up. Don't info dump. Some of you, and this is what some students get caught up in sometimes, they'll quote, 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 just looking like they're finding information to support what they're trying to say, and there's no cohesion to it. Your essays should be more your words than other people's words. So it should be 60 to 70% your words, and you're using other people's words to support what you're trying to say. You may quote the source again or even other sources to synthesize your analysis. So just because you gave your claim and you quote up here, in your discussion, you may quote 2 or 3 other sources in that paragraph to show how this quote supports your claim. So so sometimes it's not, you're not necessarily always quoting once in that paragraph. And then transition, I'm gonna do a little bit of thing on transition here. I usually do this when it's in person. I usually do this on the whiteboard, and I usually put one of the students in the boat. But here we go. So let's pretend you're on a mountain, the mountain of introduction, Mount Introduction. All right. And there's a series of mountains going down. You got Mount body paragraph 1, Mount body paragraph 2, Mount body paragraph 3, and you have the Lake of Conclusion. And we want to get the boat from on top of Mount Introduction and get it to the Lake of Conclusion. But there's a problem, because if the boat goes straight off the mountain, it's going to crash onto body paragraph 1. That's not good. So what do? What we do is we need water to get from the top of Mount Introduction to the bottom of the Lake of Conclusion. And so what happens is when we add the water, the boat can go from Mount Introduction to body paragraph 1. And it's gonna hop down these little waterfalls to body paragraph 3, and then we get to the Lake of Conclusion. It's always a great place to be, the Lake of Conclusion. But anyway, so in between the mountains, you're going to see these little waterfalls. And what these little waterfalls are your transitions. Your transition from the intro to the body, from the body to body paragraph 2, from body paragraph 2 to body paragraph 3, and then to the Lake of Conclusion. Transitions add flow to your writing. That's my corny joke for the night. Transitions add flow to your writing. It makes it less choppy. My second pun makes it less choppy. It adds organization and logical progression for the reader. So transition is about style, but it's important for readability. That's all I have to say about transitions. Your conclusions, don't say in conclusion, to conclude, to summarize, to sum up. Like Nike says, just do it. Just get to it. You don't need to qualify to let everybody know I'm in my concluding paragraph now. Just to let you know, just want to let you know I'm in my concluding paragraph. Summarize your main points, which are your sub-theses, and explain how they support the thesis statement. This is your concluding statement. Your explanation of how your sub-theses support the thesis statement is your concluding statement. I usually add this, a full circle statement. It makes a really good essay, a great essay. It answers the question, what's the big picture? Why is it important? Where do we go from here? So you wrote this amazing paper. Why? Why is it important? How does it fit in the bigger picture? And that's all I have to say about writing. Now I'm gonna switch over to the birth order activity. There we go, the birth order activity. Bam. So, birth order. Birth order refers to the order in which you were born among your siblings. All right, many believe that the order in which you were born among your brothers and sisters influences how you develop. Although birth order can give us clues about our behavior, it's not always accurate. It's kind of like the zodiac. Like, I was born February 27th. I'm a Pisces. It's pretty accurate, but it's not always 100%. But I'm definitely a Pisces. That's a whole nother story. Anyway, nevertheless, it can be very useful to know it about your students. It's also helpful with parenting. You'll see as we go along, because birth order does explain a lot. And you're going to see as we go through, part of the reason why it explains a lot is because parenting, for the most part, while there are different styles of parenting, parents tend to parent first children, second children, third children similarly, not exactly the same, but similarly. And you'll see as we go along. However, because there are variations in parenting, that's why it's not always accurate. What if there are 5 years separating you from your siblings? So let's say you're second born and you have a sibling who's 5 years older than you, or you're the third born and there's somebody who's 5 years older than you. Even though you may be the third child, you can have characteristics of an only child or a firstborn. Sometimes having both only child and firstborn child characteristics at the same time, it's possible. It happens. So another reason why this is not necessarily 100%. I think that the reason why this is kind of like parents reset. It's kind of like, we haven't parented in a while, so we're parents for the first time again. I think sometimes, as similarly as teachers, it can happen to teachers who, let's say, leave the classroom for a couple of years and they come back and they're getting their sea legs back again and they're trying to figure out how to be a teacher again. And I think it has a lot to do with that. What do I know? I'm not a parent. I'm only a teacher, but that's a whole nother thing. Tips and hints. Do these words help to describe you in the order of your birth? Are you manipulative, charming? Do you blame others? Do you show off? Are you a people person? Are you a good salesperson? Are you precocious? That may be, if that's one type of birth order, not telling you which one it is, that's one type of birth order. Are you a mediator? Do you have the fewest pictures in the family album? Do you like to avoid conflict? Are you independent? Do you have extreme loyalty to the peer group? Do you have many friends? Are you a perfectionist? Are you reliable? Are you a list maker? Are you well organized? Are you critical, serious, and scholarly? These descriptors will come up when working with kids too, and we'll see. I like finding TikTok videos, especially like on Facebook, but I don't like TikTok because they harvest your data. That's a whole nother thing. But I found this TikTok video. Oh, let me put no. I gotta pause it because I don't think you guys can see it. Hold on. We gotta restart it. No. I hate when they automatically play. And I'm always gonna do this in one take because bloopers are always fun. So I found this video. This is 100% my sisters and me. I'm the middle child. My older sister is the first child. My younger sister is the third child. So there's three of us. And I love when I find these videos online because like these are 100% accurate of like who we are as children. So here we go. Your firstborn child, your middle child, your youngest child.
You guys missed a spot.
All right. This is totally my sister. She's the organized one. She's gonna clean every section of it. And then you got me. This is me. I'm gonna make a game out of it. I'm totally gonna like if I gotta get this done, I'm gonna have fun while I'm doing it. And then you have my younger sister, Alyssa,
You guys missed a spot.
who she's supervising the whole thing. She just gets away with just not doing it. But yes, so let us go back to our PowerPoint. So firstborn children, these are their feelings that they tend to say. Everyone depends on me. I can't get away with anything. I don't get to be a kid. Why do I have to do it? Nobody else does anything around here. How come I'm responsible for what my little brother or sister did? Um, if you're a firstborn child, these may sound familiar to you. And one of the reasons why is because as first time parents, parents tend to lay down the law for the firstborn child. They tend to be stricter than they are with the other children. And because of this, the firstborn traits, they tend to be confident and determined because parents were a little bit harder on them. This makes them born leaders. They tend to be organized because they couldn't mess up things. They couldn't they couldn't because if they messed up things, mom and dad's gonna make them clean them up. They're also eager to please, they're people pleasers, and they like to avoid trouble because they know if they get in trouble, well, if they don't follow the rules, they're gonna get in trouble. So they avoid that by being a rule follower. Middle children. When I first saw this slide, I started laughing hysterically because I'm like, this is me. This is completely me. I'm tired of being left out of things. Nobody understands me. Nobody ever listens to me. I'm always in the shadow of my older sister or brother. My younger brother or sister gets away with everything. My uncle who passed away a couple of months ago, he was my Uncle Rocky. He was a middle child. He said the middle children, we have to try harder. That's absolutely right. So if you're a fellow middle child, I feel your pain. Middle children tend to roll with it because literally they're in the middle. They have to compete with the older sibling and the younger sibling. So they tend to roll with it. And I find myself, I think about this, like things don't bother me because I had to deal with it since I was a kid. They're great negotiators. Because you're a middle child, you tended to have to negotiate both ways. And because of that, you tend to have a lot of loyal friends. I would say when I was younger, I had a lot of loyal friends. Not so much now that I'm an adult, but when I was a lot younger, I definitely had a larger pool of loyal friends, especially when I was in college. Um, Feelings of the youngest children, I have to work hard to get other people to pay attention to me. Like the youngest children feel like that they have to compete with the older children, with the parents to get their attention. Nobody takes me seriously. The youngest children tend to be babied. Everyone treats me like I'm younger than I am, especially if they were a surprise, like my kid sister Alyssa. She was a surprise baby. That's a whole nother story. But um, the youngest children, this I thought was funny because this is not my younger sister. This is why sometimes it doesn't apply all the time. Uh, Persistent, great storyteller, affectionate. My younger sister's none of these three. She's definitely not affectionate, but that's a whole nother story. But general personality traits of the youngest are these three. Feelings of only children. I don't do as well as I should have. They tend to be harder on themselves because they have nothing to compare themselves with. So they had to do everything on their own. Sometimes I feel lonely. Only children tend to say, because they literally were only. I would be much happier with a brother or sister. Oftentimes, only children feel left out, especially when they look at friends who had siblings. I'm not getting enough attention. Only children tend to be confident because they had to do everything on their own. They pay attention to detail. They're good in school because they didn't have the distraction of other siblings growing up. They don't share well. It's mine. They don't share well with others because they never had to share with other siblings growing up. And they tend to be overly critical, especially of themselves. Um, why does this matter? uh for teachers and parents, it we need to help each child see themselves as unique individuals. Knowing birth order can really help us also to avoid comparisons with siblings. um I know one of the things, as a child, as a student, I never liked being compared to my siblings, whether it was a positive comparison or not a positive comparison. So, for example, you know, you're so much smarter than your sisters. It may sound great on the surface, and in the moment, it may sound great, but it also shines a spotlight on you that you may not necessarily want. So it's also important to avoid comparisons with siblings because um we tend to want to be individuals. We tend to want to be our own. And this especially is important when it comes to twins and triplets and quadruplets. When with twins, especially if all they're known as so and so's twin, um, a lot can get lost in translation. So as teachers and parents, again, we need to help our children see that they are unique individuals. We need to avoid comparisons, um, and so on. For additional information, you can go on here to these two websites. Um, and that's really all I have to say about that. If you have any questions, you can text me on GroupMe. And as I said before, I am going to get the second um, lecture up tomorrow morning. I hope you enjoy your weekend, and then I'll talk about next week's module tomorrow morning when I do the chapter 3 unit. So enjoy your Friday night. Um, I think is it no, I was gonna say, is it the first night? I forgot that Wyoming starts a little bit sooner. Uh, a lot of the colleges here out in the east, the kids went back this past weekend, so it's their first Friday night. So enjoy your Friday night. Don't have too much fun. and I'll see you in the morning.